Dragi colegi, cu permisiunea...
So, with your permission, we would like to start.
Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the official opening
So,
of the Romanian Diplomacy 2024. We are having the official opening in the presence of His Excellency Mr. Nicolae, Ciucă, Speaker of the Senate of Romania, and Her Excellency Ms. Luminița Odobescu, Minister of Foreign Affairs of Romania. Madam Minister, you have the floor.
Bună ziua! Stimate domnule președinte al Senatului României,
dear President of the Romanian Senate, Your Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen ministers, ladies and gentlemen members of the Parliament, colleagues from the government,
dragi colegi ambasadori,
dear ambassadors and consuls, I am honored to open this new annual reunion of the Romanian diplomacy. I'm happy to see so many guests here from partner countries and from Romanian institutions, next to the representatives of the diplomatic corps accredited to Romania and the heads of the diplomatic missions, directors of cultural institutes, and people from the central apparatus of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. I would like to welcome the presence of the members of the European Parliament, and I want to thank the President of the Senate for being here to have an intervention at the beginning of this reunion. Traditional, our reunion is an opportunity to think of the priorities and the ways to make the Romanian diplomacy activity more efficient. The reflection and assessment process has an increased significance. The overlapping crises that have affected the international system have created instability and uncertainty at global level.
With this opening, let me tell you that it's not per chance that today's meeting includes a lot of thematic sessions with foreign guests devoted to future actions of the Atlantic communities as a response to the current situation, including the one close to our borders because of the war of aggression of Russia against Ukraine, and we will discuss deeply the role of European integration in resilient construction and the concrete specific means whereby we can counteract hybrid actions. However, we won't focus only on managing crisis, but we will also focus on how to capitalize opportunities. In our meeting, we included a session devoted to economic diplomacy and the process of Romania's accession to OECD. Dear colleagues, we find it very useful to use the parliamentarian approach of our foreign policy. The assumption that we start from is that parliamentary diplomacy is a valuable component in the complex current processes geared to ensure peace and cooperation at the international level. Once again, in this direction, let me express my appreciation for the availability of the President of the Romanian Senate, Mr. Ciucă, because he's going to share with us his visions and his aims on how to promote Romania in the foreign arena. President of the Senate, Speaker of the Senate, I'm giving you this opportunity to have the floor and present your opinions. Thank you.
Distinguished Minister, ladies and gentlemen, colleagues, senators, deputies, presidential advisors, ministers, Your Excellencies, ambassadors of Romania, and Your Excellencies, members of the diplomatic corps accredited to Bucharest, distinguished members of the consular corps, honored guests. The minister was saying that I'm going to share some of the things I noticed in time in relation to Romanian diplomacy and its role in reaching the national goals. But before everything, I would like to share with you my appreciation and respect for your entire activity in the Romanian embassies in the countries you are present. Your sustained work with the authorities of the countries with whom Romania has diplomatic relations and I'm saying this as honestly as possible. Well, I appreciate this because I had the opportunity to interact with most of you, and I said it in the past and I'm saying it now openly and publicly. You are very important to the representation of the Romania's interests in the international diplomacy and in the relations that Romania has with other countries. I want to thank to the ambassadors that are accredited to Bucharest for the way in which they contribute to strengthening and developing bilateral relations that Romania has with your countries. I am happy to be with you today in the annual reunion of the Romanian diplomacy, which is a prestigious event that sets the main directions of actions for Romania's foreign policy. First of all, I would like to commend the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Her Excellency the Minister and her management team, and of course all those that work within the Ministry of Foreign Affairs for making the inspired choice of the topic of this year, namely diplomatic action in an unstable world. Indeed, this is a period full of challenges when it comes to geopolitics and geostrategy. A period that is viewing many crises, high-intensity conflicts, almost perpetual instability, which affects the international environment that is continuously changing and that imposes the dynamism and adaptation of foreign policies. The international relations have become more and more complex. The international situation is continuously changing, and your role is more important than ever. In this context, it's even more important to stand firm in promoting the objectives and the priorities we have when it comes to foreign policy. Strengthening the role of Romania within the EU and in our country's increased contribution to strengthening the collective defense capacities within NATO and supporting strong transatlantic relations, including through our strategic partnership with the US, have to remain important things in our diplomatic activity. The fact that this period found Romania in its best moment in its history in terms of security warranties, but also in terms of economic development and prosperity of its citizens, is a historical chance. But this is a chance that we build ourselves by making the right choices as a nation in terms of the place we want Romania to have in the world. It is a chance that required a lot of work and dedication from all those that, from a position or another, have the honor and the privilege to serve the country. So I invite you to continue this road and to work together in order to have a dignified and prosperous future that we all want. The American President John F. Kennedy said that change is a law of life, and those that look only to the past or to the present will miss for sure the future. We shouldn't be afraid of change, and we should be prepared to face difficulties and to build with trust and courage a common and peaceful and prosperous future by adapting to the new realities. The EU is at a crossroads, ending an institutional cycle now and opening a new legislative cycle. Our citizens have high expectations, from security to jobs, from investments to adapting to climate changes or to the digital developments, from protecting borders to supporting the neighborhoods from the East or from the Balkans. And the new Commission and the new European Parliament have the task of coming with concrete solutions that respond to these expectations. I'm convinced that the current and the future challenges brought by the geopolitical factor that is more and more complex can be efficiently tackled by having a structured diplomacy that is capable to create new spaces for dialogue and that can actively contribute to having a united Europe and developing peaceful international relations. We acted constantly in order to promote a more resilient and more competitive union that in its turn represents a framework for an European Romania that is stronger and stronger. So in this context, we will continue to make efforts, including diplomatic ones, to reach the objective of being full members in the Schengen area and in order to reach our goals about the terrestrial borders so that the effects of these things can be felt by all citizens. Honored audience, I want to take this opportunity of speaking to you today also to emphasize the fact that in the current geostrategic context, the North Atlantic Alliance is the cornerstone of ensuring the security in Romania. So it's crucial to continue our efforts to consolidate cohesion within NATO and of consolidating the eastern flank of the alliance. I appreciate the sustained efforts of the Romanian diplomacy in attracting the support of the allies and of our partners in order to transform the Black Sea into a place of peace and security, including by reflecting the strategic importance of the region in the NATO and EU policies. We have to continue to be a stability driver in the region and strengthen our role of an essential member within NATO. That is why I am firmly convinced that allocating 2.5 of the GDP is very important in order to support the defense efforts of the country and in order to support Romania's contribution to the collective defense within NATO. Here I would like to open a parenthesis and say that I was very happy that in the NATO summit, an important summit that has a special symbol and that celebrated 75 years of alliance, well, Romania has been mentioned several times, both by the Secretary General of the Alliance, as well as by the presidents and the head of governments that see Romania as an essential pillar of the defense in the Black Sea region, a security pivot, and I was also happy to hear the commitment of the alliance for the security and safety in the Black Sea region. Actually, the paragraph that was approved in Vilnius last year was repeated and reiterated and strengthens the alliance in what means, what's beyond the Black Sea strategy and also the deterrence measures. So, our duty, besides what is written in these documents, these strategic planning documents and political documents, our duty is to find ways to put into practice all these measures and to take this opportunity to strengthen Romania's security and to ensure the safety of the Romanian citizens. I've always supported, and I will continue to do so, the efforts to strengthen the Romanian army and our defense capacities. Romania has to have a strong army that is well equipped, that is adapted to the requirements of a modern war, and that is able to defend the country by collaborating with our allies and by being interoperable. The support for Ukraine has to continue for as long as it is necessary. Even from the beginning of the war, Romania has supported and will continue to do so multidimensionally and in a comprehensive manner. We have welcomed more than 1 million Ukrainians. We coagulated international efforts. We facilitated the transit of more than 50 million tons of grains. We politically supported Ukraine at EU and NATO level. And also we supported them in other relevant international fora. And we are preparing to have an own contribution to the reconstruction of Ukraine. In the same context, I would like to underline our determination to stand by Moldova, which is greatly affected by the war at our borders, by providing financial assistance, expertise, and political support for them in their European journey, but also in building a safe and prosperous state. I welcome the remarkable efforts of the authorities in Chișinău in implementing important reforms that are necessary in order to strengthen the institutional resilience, which is also important in order to get closer to the EU. So I would like to thank all of you and to congratulate you for your work in supporting Ukraine and the Republic of Moldova in your diplomatic activity. I want to thank you for the assistance for development and for other instruments. And I take this opportunity to emphasize the fact that the Republic of Moldova was mentioned with two important activities within NATO. On the one hand, the request to withdraw the Russian troops from Moldova, and the second one, the commitment of the alliance for the security and safety of the Republic of Moldova against hybrid actions. I know how much each of one of you has worked, and I know how much the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and the government have worked, and I know how much the ambassadors accredited to Bucharest have helped us together with their teams. So I want to thank you all, because you've understood that the most vulnerable state after Ukraine is the Republic of Moldova, and we cannot afford to have something there happening, something that's unwanted. So success is essential to reach the common objective of having a European prosperous future and in Europe and also in the region. So our support and our cooperation with the partners in the Western Balkans are also important. We are supporters of the enlargement. So, ladies and gentlemen, we cannot have a full X-ray of the priorities that we have without mentioning a primordial goal that we have: to continue our efforts in order for Romania to be a full member of the OECD. I was very actively involved in this, not alone. I had a team, and some of the members of the team are here in this room. And I'm going to talk about this very important aspect. As the Prime Minister, I received the invitation to start this process, namely the roadmap. I submitted the initial memorandum, and at the moment I'm monitoring the progress in this very important dossier as the President of the Senate and as the Chairman of the Joint Commission for OECD accession. In Romania, OECD is an additional anchor for stability and prosperity. And I want to express my hope that through our common efforts, Romania will become a member of the OECD as soon as possible. I said I wanted to come back to what I was saying because I saw Ambassador Luca Niculescu and I saw some members of the government. I know that each one of them have an active contribution to this path in the next 2 years so that Romania becomes an OECD member state. When we were looking for motivation, I said that this is just as important as accessing the EU and NATO. It is an activity that will change Romania, and I'm convinced that together with the reforms we have to implement according to our commitments in our recovery and resilience plan, and also in line with the standards that need to be achieved in order to access the OECD. This is a very important stage for Romania's prosperity and for being in line with the values of the civilized world. Your Excellencies, the support you are granted the Romanian citizens abroad is essential, and I'm happy to see that through the major efforts of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs from the last decade, Romania has a very good consular network, and I want to congratulate you for your professionalism that you show every day in your relations with the citizens. In the interactions I have with Romanians every time I go abroad, I've noticed there was a change for good in these services, and this is visible and appreciated by most Romanian communities abroad. So it's very important for you to continue like that. I've discussed with each ambassador and with each consul. I've discussed with the minister, and it is an activity that Romania has to significantly improve. It is our duty for the Romanians abroad to have consular services that they need so much, and it's important for them to feel that this distance that sometimes may be huge between the country and them can be shortened through the consular services we provide. They need these services so bad that I'm convinced that you don't need additional arguments for that. I think the interaction with the Romanians abroad is an argument enough for us to continue to develop and modernize the network and the services we need to provide to the Romanian citizens abroad.
I would also like to thank you for the efforts you put in to organize the parliamentary elections this year that were organized perfectly. I'm fully convinced that you will put in the same type of efforts so that the following rounds of elections towards the end of this year could be organized without any type of reproach, and so that Romanians living abroad can exercise their right to vote without any difficulties. Minister, ladies and gentlemen, it is our responsibility as political individuals to make the correct and important decisions. And in this process, we rely on the information and on the data that you submit to us. I assure you that we analyze this data quite attentively, and that this data is very useful for us to understand and grasp European, local, national and global trends and their effects on Romania. It's our responsibility to work in order to provide security for our own country and to protect our own nationals. Just like I showed you before, the cornerstones of our foreign policy will not change, and our national consensus must be the red line to continue to guide us. There's a war at our borders. The world is continuously changing. Your efforts, the efforts of the Romanian diplomats, are essential. I'm fully convinced that you will continue to put in the same amount of efforts, and that you all are going to be just as dedicated and just as responsible as before. All these attributes can be expressed using just one argument. You do all these because we work for Romania, we speak about Romania, and we strive for its own good. I will continue with my address, and I would like to wish you lots of success for your activities, and I would like to express that I'm convinced that just like I know you, perhaps now more than ever, you know that we need your professionalism, your dedication, and your courage and bravery, so that we are all able to execute the goals of the Romanian diplomacy. Thank you very much for your work, and let me wish you lots of success furthermore.
Vă mulțumesc.
Thank you very much, Speaker of the Senate, for your kind words. Dear guests, dear colleagues, I would like to begin by greeting the Vice Prime Minister of the Republic of Moldova, Cristina Gerasim. We are welcoming you here, and we are glad to have you here. Once again, Speaker of the Senate, let me thank you for your own words, for your support, for your unwavering dedication for our activity. I'm very glad once again, dear colleagues, to be for the second time as a minister in front of you at the yearly reunion of the Romanian diplomacy. I'd like to thank you all for your presence, and to our colleagues from the headquarters and from abroad, let me thank you directly once again for the effort you put forth the last year. To prepare this meeting, I reflected at the year we traveled together in order to better understand the progress. I was forced to see that, as you've already said it, President of the Senate, that the international situation remains unstable, and that we continue to live the most complicated tides after the Second World War. We are faced with a severe deterioration of the security situation in our area and in the world, and there is no indication that this trend could be overturned. The hope that the economic development, the technological process, and the promotion of values and democracy lead ultimately to peace and international stability, the exceptions having just an isolated or a passing or temporary character, are dissipating in front of our own eyes. I don't start my address per chance this way. I'm doing this because it so happens that when the international environment is marked by major crises and prolonged instability, the diplomatic action must be adjusted and even revamp itself. The topic of this edition is the diplomatic action in an unstable world. And you all know that we are all living in this unstable world. So the topic of this edition will provide a forum for us to discuss these 2 days, the ways and the means that the Romanian diplomacy will use to act in the future, in the following years. More than ever, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs has become a key institution of national security, an agency that needs to prepare and operationalize quite strongly the interaction of the Romanian state with the external partners. In an unstable world, security and resilience become essential landmarks for foreign policy. Equally, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs must closely work with the various internal agencies that are partners, such as the presidential administration, the prime minister chancery, the ministries, the agencies, the parliament, the private environment, the academia, or the civil society. The effort must be collective and coordinated in order to be efficient. I take this opportunity to welcome my colleagues from the executive at this meeting, to welcome the representatives of the parliament and of the civil society, the representatives of the education institutions and the press that favorably accepted our invitation. As you all know, and as we all know, good foreign policy can only be executed if the domestic policy is of quality. Otherwise, the international context will influence the domestic policy, whereas diplomacy is at the crossroad of the two. We hope that in this edition of our meeting, we could have an exchange of ideas, starting with the diverse expertise of participants, and that should lead not only to qualitative analysis, but also to specific solutions. In the past year, given the geopolitical context and given the complicated security environment in which we operate, we succeeded in having a lot of success in the projects and the diplomatic endeavors that we committed to. And I would like to quote just a few. The multidimensional support provided to Ukraine and to the Republic of Moldova, both bilaterally and at the level of the EU and NATO, and quite obviously in the international arena. In the European arena, given our sustained efforts, we succeeded to make a lot of progress in the European accession of the two countries. At the same time, we succeeded in strengthening the security dimension and the EU-US strategic partnership. We also succeeded in strengthening the eastern flank to promote a comprehensive approach for the Black Sea at the EU level and at the NATO level. We revamped the diplomatic dialogue with the countries in the Western Balkans and also in geographic regions where we were absent for a long period. Additionally, we achieved progress with respect to Romania's accession to our OECD. Having gone through the negotiation stages, we organized successfully the Euro-Parliamentarian elections in a record number of polling stations abroad. We managed to expand, improve, and make more efficient our consulary services. We initiated a wide process of renovating our embassies, those being our business card. Those are just a few accomplishments that were obtained through hard work, dedication, passion, and bravery. Many times, being enthusiastic and being determined, we succeeded in capping up the important deficit of human and financial resources. We will continue to do our duty and to serve our country with all that we know and can, using the same high standards of professionalism in order to actively promote the role and strategic goals of Romania in the world. We are equally aware that the lack of resources cannot always be offset by our additional efforts. And we are aware that executing the large array of diplomatic projects and also managing the complex challenges in the current global context require the allocation or earmarking of comprehensive or extended resources. We, as a matter of fact, launched this process of capping up the resources that are limited. That was one of my priority goals when I took over the office. I had the support of the Prime Minister, of the Speaker of the Senate, of the colleagues in the government. Let me thank them using this opportunity for it. I think it's been seen by every one of you. We must, however, consolidate the diplomatic apparatus as it stands by providing it with the appropriate financial and human resources and by improving the state standing of the Romanian diplomat and to make it compatible with that of their counterparts abroad. I'm fully convinced that my call will be correctly received and that we will find the required comprehension to be able to have both the resources for our operation at the headquarters and abroad in order to achieve the great goals of foreign policy and also the investment in the infrastructure that is owned by the Romanian state abroad. Sometimes these properties are degraded and that directly affect our image in those countries. We are all fully convinced that we need to work in this respect. And let me thank you once again for your support, Speaker of the Senate, in this process. Ladies and gentlemen, and dear colleagues, let me now tackle very briefly a few of the political and diplomatic priorities of concern to us and which we are going to develop in our thematic and working sessions. In an unstable world, we need security. I will start with our region, from the Russian aggression over Ukraine, that require a strategic approach. Ever since the war broke, as you've already said it, Romania has constantly supported Ukraine. We will continue to do so for as long as it is necessary, in parallel with our participation in the international and European efforts to penalize Russia. We are making these efforts to help Ukraine resist and to block a potential enlargement of the Russian aggression towards other countries that might have disastrous effects to all of us. Our efforts are investment in our own security, in the European security, and in a global order based on rules. Bilaterally, we decided to elevate the relationship with Ukraine at the level of a strategic partnership, and we've already conducted the first joint meeting of our governments in October 2023 in Kyiv. We take part in NATO and EU initiatives to support the effort of Ukraine to defend itself, and during the last NATO summit in Washington, we concluded a cooperation agreement in the area of security. Thus, Romania participates in a network of support for the longer term for Ukrainian security. Our approach is regional. When Ukrainian situation is discussed, we wish for the needs of the Republic of Moldova to be tackled as well. Our reasoning is based both on geopolitical considerations but also on economic pragmatism. Our regional vision aims at turning the region of the Black Sea in an area of peace, security and connectivity. To strengthen security and cooperation in the region, we aimed to develop regional partnerships. Jointly with Bulgaria and Turkey, in July, we activated the Mine Countermeasures Black Sea Task Force. We concluded an agreement in the area of military mobility with Bulgaria and Greece, and there is one that is being debated with Turkey. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs has been an important part of the national efforts to strengthen the allied posture in the region and on the eastern flank, including in what respects the defense plans and the strengthening of the command structures. We promoted our vision about the area of proximity in the framework of the EU. Thus, we recently obtained support for the development of a strategic approach of the Union for the Black Sea region. In parallel, we developed the dialogue and the cooperation with the US, France, and other allied and partners which are interested in effectively contribute to ensuring stability at the Black Sea. In the same logic of regional responsibility, we've been and we will continue to be joined in arms with the Republic of Moldova, which is the most exposed country in the region and the most affected by the conflict in Ukraine. The place of the Republic of Moldova is in the EU. And as you know, dear Christina, Romania contributes through financial assistance, expertise, and political support to the irreversible European journey of Moldova and to the construction of a safe and prosperous state. Things fare on a good track. We've discussed these aspects at the beginning of this month in Chisinau during the trilateral organized for the Republic of Moldova, Romania and Ukraine. I'm so glad that the edition of this year of our meeting, we will have with us Mrs. Cristina Gerasimov, the Vice Prime Minister for European Integration of the Republic of Moldova, and Mrs. Olia Ștefănișnea, Vice Prime Minister of Ukraine. Therefore, we will be able to discuss our coordination and to adjust our support to further the European journey of the two countries. Ladies and gentlemen, from a larger perspective, given the security dimension in Europe, our approach is aimed at strengthening the general NATO capacity for collective defense. For Romania, as the president of the country and the speaker of the Senate have already said it, a united and effective alliance supported by a strong transatlantic relationship is a must to maintain peace and security in Europe. The message conveyed during the recent NATO summit in Washington was pretty clear. We act in close coordination to be prepared to defend together each step of each centimeter of the Allied territory, providing effective deterrent and defense on the eastern flank, including in the field of anti-air and anti-missile defense. Are priorities that we have in front of us. Through our diplomatic action, we will continue the active support to effectively accomplish these goals. At the same time, we are faced with new challenges and threats. The revisionist state actors use very often the hybrid weapons and the cyber war. They intensify their misinformation actions and propaganda given the context of the risk of security for our close partners. Our response to this reality will have to be consolidated in what follows. Dear guests, dear colleagues, in an unstable world, we need joint projects. The EU and the development of the European project remain a priority for Romania. Our goal is to strengthen the democratic resilience of the Union. In the context of the transition towards a new European institutional cycle for the following 5 years, we will promote the development of policies based on the needs of nationals and communities, on the increased convergence at the level of the EU, geared to cut down the gaps between regions, and thus we will build a union with major influence at the global level. Romania's accession in the Schengen area towards March this year with its air and maritime borders was an opportunity for us to be recognized our efforts in the area of border protection. This process, however, must be finalized as quick as possible by lifting the controls on the land borders. All our diplomatic efforts are required to highlight both Romania's decisive contribution at the security of the Union and its capacity to tackle any challenges in the Schengen area. In an unstable world, dear colleagues, we need partners. A fundamental dimension of our foreign policy is the further development of partnerships with actors that share the same visions and goals. Romania is fully committed for working in the area of the transatlantic cohesion and to strengthen its partnership with the US. As I could see, given the opportunity of having a meeting with the State Secretary Antony Blinken and given the strategic dialogue session between Romania and the US that happened last month in Washington, our bilateral partnership is robust and dynamic. We maintain the strategic interest to have an increased US presence in our country, both in the military field and in the economic and the resilience fields. We are fully committed to further our flagship projects to bilaterally cooperate in the area of nuclear energy and to achieve the goal of us being integrated in the visa waiver. And I'm now looking at the ambassador. I'm making another call for us to be renewed our visas. As regards the relationship with Canada, I'm so glad that we were able to sign a consolidated partnership declaration between Romania and Canada 2 weeks ago on the occasion of our meeting with the Canadian Minister for Foreign Affairs. In the following year, we will continue our efforts to further our interaction and develop it, interaction with all European partners, including with the strategic partners or with those partners with strategic relevance. In Europe, we have a much closer cooperation with Germany, France, Italy, Spain, Poland, UK and Bulgaria. With Turkey, we've been engaged in a political dialogue ever more sustained in the past year with the Baltic states and with other countries in the Central and East European countries. We share not only the same goals of strengthening our bilateral cooperation, but also the same severe and grave concerns of security that we tackled in joint messages and approaches included in the framework of the Bucharest 9 framework. As regards the Western Balkans, we relaunched the bilateral dialogue. We wanted to increase our Romanian presence and to support the regional security and the European roadmap of the countries in the area. We are further more open towards the other regions of the world as well. When it comes to the Southern Caucasus region, we wish to strengthen our political and practical cooperation with Azerbaijan and Armenia. We support the normalization of the relationship between the two countries in keeping with the principles of international law. Our goals of cooperating with the countries in the Central Asia is based on diversifying economic and energy cooperation. Peace and prosperity in Europe depend largely on the stability in the Middle East and Northern Africa. We wish to have a valuable contribution towards the political efforts to settle conflicts and post-conflict reconstruction in this area. The progress in Israel and Gaza, especially following the terrorist attack on October 7th last year, these evolutions prove that once again just peace and long-standing peace in the region require political solutions. And in the Israeli-Palestinian dossier, the only viable perspective is the solution chosen by the two states with the observance of the right of security of the Israel state and the aspirations, the legitimate aspirations of the Palestinian nation. Our ambitions and plans in the foreign policy arena don't stop here. With the countries in the Indo-Pacific, a region that is more strategically relevant for us, we aim to strengthen our political and diplomatic dialogue, as well as to further our cooperation in the economic, technological, scientific and cultural areas. That is why it is very important for us to continue executing priorities and projects under the strategic partnership with Japan, the strategic partnership with the Republic of Korea, renewed this year, and the large partnership with India. At the same time, the visit of the Vietnamese Prime Minister in Bucharest in January opened new prospects for us to cooperate with the countries in the region.
After in the recent years we had sustained efforts in order to revive the relations with the states in the Latin America and Caribbean, we continued this year to have bilateral contacts with our partners in the region, with those that are like-minded and have convergent interests, both bilaterally as well as what it concerns defending multilateralism based on rules. In 2023, we initiated a process of reviving the relations with Africa, committing to a level of ambition that is adapted to the new Romanian and African realities. As you know, a national strategy was adopted for the implementation of which we want to make political and sectoral contacts more dynamic, and we want to allocate a proper and multidimensional resource package. All these diplomatic initiatives represent significant opportunities to expand and diversify bilateral relations in multiple fields, especially in what concerns economy and trade, but also education and culture. These are doors that the diplomacy is opening, but that have to be followed by concrete actions by all interested institutions, by the business environment and by the academia. Within the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and within our missions abroad, I can assure you of our full support and collaboration for all the projects that you are going to initiate. Ladies and gentlemen, dear colleagues, as you've said it, in an unstable world we need country projects. At this stage, Romania wants to become an OECD member, and the Ministry of Foreign Affairs is ensuring the role of coordinating this accession process. In the near future, we have to continue to closely coordinate ourselves with all the responsible institutions so we can reach our accession objectives in 2026. Besides the domestic benefits like better policies for our citizens in almost all fields, for Romania, joining OECD means to belong to an organization that is essential in facilitating international economic cooperation. Thus, the road to diversifying bilateral relations with all OECD member and candidate states will open, including with those that are from regions that are further away. Romania will be better connected to the debates on topics of global interest like economic growth, free trade, climate changes, and AI. Dear colleagues, in an unstable world, we need the capacity to act. In the recent years, we focused on representing and providing consular services that are the best possible. Many projects in this sense are very advanced and will be finalized in the near future. We are taking actions in order to continue the digitalization process and to extend the consular network and to open new consular offices in order to respond to the needs of our citizens. And because this was a very complex year in terms of consular matters, especially given the recent security developments in the Middle East, I would like to congratulate and thank all our colleagues that were involved in the efforts to facilitate the repatriation of the Romanian citizens in Israel and those in the Gaza Strip. So I want to thank you again. Well, organizational and consular challenges will be present this year too. As you know, 2024 is a very important election year. The Minister of Foreign Affairs has the task of organizing 4 steps of the election processes in polling stations abroad. For the elections for the European Parliament from the 9th of June, our institution was very well mobilized and managed to organize successfully a record number of polling stations abroad. So this has to continue when it comes to the presidential and parliamentary elections this year. Ladies and gentlemen, dear colleagues, a great French writer, Albert Camus, said, "The true generosity to the future consists in giving everything to the present." It's true that today we are living the most complicated times after the Second World War. However, in this new context, even though it's more difficult, we can't give up any of the 2 fundamental dimensions of foreign policy: European construct and transatlantic cohesion. They are closely connected to the democratic option of Romania. And to this we add significant objectives that I've mentioned earlier. The list is indeed long, but shows the intense activity and the dynamic and daily activity, actually 24 hours, 24/7 activity that the Romanian diplomacy has. We will have the opportunity to detail all these topics in the debate sessions that we'll have in these 2 days. In order to transpose all these objectives, I rely on you. So, during the many visits I had as a minister, I was impressed by the commitment and professionalism that you showed, many times in areas that imply many personal privations. Or in low security conditions. We want to support you more from the country and from the central office, because the fundamental objectives of foreign policy can only be attained through conjugated common efforts, team efforts. So in this sense, I reiterate my call for support from the beginning of my speech, and I continue to count on the support of my colleagues from the government, but also on the support of the other institutions that we collaborate with. I'm confident that together we will manage to accomplish our mission, and we will continue to project Romania's image in the world as a country that is stable and predictable, that promotes fundamental values like democracy, freedom, rule of law, and respect for human rights. Thank you once again. And I wish ourselves to have a successful reunion. We count on your support, as you count on us as always. And I'm saying this not only as a minister, but also as a colleague, because team is very important for our ministry.
Vă mulțumim pentru participarea la deschidere.
Thank you for attending the official opening session of the annual reunion of the Romanian diplomacy. You are invited now to for a coffee break in the lobby.